Welcome to The Gateway, your compass through the magical waters of spirit communication, broadcast live from United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM New Orleans. I'm your host, C.L. Thomas. Joining me for this episode is Marci Lee and Mark Boyance from Louisiana Spirits Paranormal Investigations. Let me pull them on up here. Hey guys, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hello, thank you for having us.
So the Bayous, the haunted Bayous, that's what we're talking about tonight.
Great.
So
Awesome.
let's start off with you guys telling me a little bit about yourselves and how you ended up in the paranormal.
Okay, well, I've been into the paranormal pretty much my whole life. I've had so many experiences as a child and then later as an adult with Louisiana Spirits. At that time, I was just a team member, just an investigator. And then I had to step away for a while due to life, and I'm also a teacher, so just a lot going on. And so when um, I came back as a case manager and worked my way up to the state director of Louisiana Spirits. And so I guess the reason I'm in this is because I'm just fascinated with it, and I have been my whole entire life.
Mark, what about you?
I've always been into like scary stuff, horror movies and scary movies and stuff like that. And the way I got involved a couple of years ago, my daughter wanted to go to one of the classes that Louisiana Spirits was holding, and it was in Opelousas. So I took her and we went together, and I pretty much didn't believe in this stuff.
You were
until
a skeptic.
Yeah, I was a skeptic. And I attended the class with my daughter, and a few things happened. And one thing happened in the basement of Opelousas that made me a believer. And so that's how I got involved, because I'm more interested in it now than I was before. I mean, I really like it now, seeing the other stuff.
So tell me about Louisiana Spirits Paranormal. What do you guys do and how did you guys get together?
Okay, so in 2005, Brad Duplechien formed Louisiana Spirits, and at that time, he wanted to be able to cover the whole state. So he developed 5 what we call chapters. We have the North chapter, the Central chapter, the West chapter, also the East chapter, which is Baton Rouge and the New Orleans area. Um, and we started off at first just kind of getting their feet wet and getting into some public locations and some historical locations and plantations. And from there, um, he created a website where people could reach out if they were having any kind of paranormal issues in their homes. So from there, we've just grown and grown, and our main job, of course, is to help our private clients. And then we also enjoy doing a lot of the public events because we get to teach people about the paranormal, and then we get to actually take them on an investigation where they have hands-on learning at that point. Mark?
This sounds so interesting. And you guys are in such a great part of the country for this.
Absolutely.
A lot of things.
Can you hear me? I feel like the internet's going in and out.
Oh, I can hear you.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of locations out here that's very old locations, whether it was Civil War and plantations and all kind of stuff out here. So there's a lot of places to investigate, a lot of activity.
Yes. Out of all the places in the country, I feel like for some reason that little Gulf area around Louisiana, the bayous, seem to be just off the charts as far as activity. Can you guys talk a little bit about why that might be?
I don't know. I think I agree with Mark. There's just so much history here. Also there is the theory of running water being a conductor of energy. And trust me, we have a lot of bayous in Louisiana, Mississippi, into the Alabama area. We have a lot of Civil War historic sites, battlegrounds here in Louisiana. So, and then there's New Orleans, which is just a whole thing in itself. It's an old city right there on the Mississippi River. So I just think that it generates a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Can you guys talk a little bit about some of the legends and lore that are associated with haunted bayous?
Well, there's the Fifale, which is supposedly the lights that people see in bayous and swamp areas. There's the Rougarou, which is werewolf type creature that supposedly lives in the bayous. We don't call him Bigfoot here, but I believe they call him the swamp ape, which is also known to inhabit, or the skunk ape, which is also known to inhabit the bayous and the swamps of Louisiana. So there's a lot of lore, and there's a lot of tales, old Cajun tales.
Mm-hmm.
Old Cajun tales.
Yeah.
Those are so different than tales from everywhere else. I can't really quite put my finger on it, but I love to write about the bayous, and I love doing the history around that. The plantations along River Road, have you guys had any opportunities to investigate any of those, like Oak Alley? And there's a whole line of them that go all the way up the river there.
I mean, we haven't had a chance to get to recently to be able to investigate those, but on our website you can see that in the early beginnings of Louisiana Spirits, several of the teams did investigate all of those plantations in that area.
Did they find anything?
I believe we have evidence on each one of those. I believe we've got some EVPs. There may be some videos. There's a lot of personal experiences in those locations as well.
Mm. So what about, I know you gave me a list of different places to talk about tonight. So I kind of want to go into those a little bit, like the Spirits of Main Street events. And then you have like the Chutes building, you have St. Landry Parish, the Delta Grand Theater. Can you talk about some of these locations and kind of the history attached to them? Because I think a lot of times when we go into these investigations and we go into these great places like the Delta Grand Theater, we focus so much on the activity, but we kind of lose the lore associated with it and the history and why this location is so important.
Yeah, Mark, do you want to answer that?
Well, the St. Landry Courthouse, if I'm not mistaken, that whole area caught fire a couple times. Is that right, Marci? I think 2 or 3 times the whole area caught fire.
I know for sure the St. Landry Parish Courthouse burned down.
Right. And it's been rebuilt maybe twice. I can't remember exactly.
This is this courthouse currently is the 5th courthouse to stand on that square.
Right.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of history. I'll be honest with you. I think that whole square in Opelousas has activity, from the courthouse to the Delta Grand to the Chutes building. They're all very old historic buildings. The courthouse housed a jail up on the 3rd floor. The history that we've been able to get on that area is, they would conduct electrocutions, supposedly some hangings. We've also heard that there were hangings from the trees, in the late 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, outside the courthouse. So there's a lot of really sad history on that whole block. And I think that that's one reason why the courthouse is just so active. I mean, it's just been a lot that's happened in that one area, Yeah.
And like that downtown area, the courtyard, the courthouse area.
Right. I'm trying to find a picture of it so I can share it.
We were in the Delta Grand a couple weeks ago, and there's a tunnel that goes from the Delta Grand to the other buildings that used to be used in the early, I guess, 1900s. Underground tunnel that goes to the Chutes building, and I can't remember what other buildings they go to. But we found that was very interesting.
Yeah, and we did try to find the history on that. I did ask some of the people there in Opelousas, and they're aware of the tunnels, but they're not really sure exactly, why they were used. Of course, there's all kinds of stories as to why they were used. We do know for a fact that there is a tunnel that runs from the Chutes building to the coffee shop, and the coffee shop used to be a bank. But before it was a bank, I believe that it was something else. I'm not really sure exactly what it was, but supposedly there was a tunnel that ran from the Chutes building to the bank that was kind of like a speakeasy, maybe. So, you had to go through the tunnel and probably have a password or something, to get in during the Prohibition days, I believe.
So do you think the tunnels were built during Prohibition, or do you think they're older than that, to where they were? Because I know there was a period right after the Civil War, after they released all the slaves, they kept bringing them in somehow, or was it before? I can't remember the exact dates or the exact history, but I know sometime they outlawed actually bringing in new slaves into the South. It must have been before. And then they built those tunnels to kind of tunnel them in. I know that was like in Savannah. They would bring them on the ships and take them underground to get them out sold. So that was popular like along the East Coast. But I don't know with the situation.
I don't know, and we did kind of ask about it, and we were told that, one of the stories was it was a way for people to sneak around underground and not get caught for doing things. But there's no actual solid evidence that we've been able to get on what the tunnels were used for. So we're still researching that area for any more information we can find.
When I think of the tunnels in the bayous, wouldn't they be kind of swampy?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they probably filled up with water a lot, which is the reason why a lot of our cemeteries are above ground, because, of the flooding in the areas.
So aside from the parish courthouse, are there other places that you guys investigate frequently that has really stood out to you?
Near Fairfax in Franklin, Louisiana. Fairfax Hotel. It stands out. There we had a lot of activity there. Rim pods going off, cat balls moving. You can make things like on command, ask it to walk by a rim pod to make it go off. So Fairfax is one of them that's very active. And we had the Centerville Inn in Centerville. That's another one that's very active. Same thing, same story.
Yeah. And I think that the Delta Grand is really active as well. Again, I keep going back to that area because we've investigated it so much, and we always get activity in all of those buildings. But I will tell you that the Delta Grand also has a lot of activity. We caught a shadow actually on our video cameras in the Delta Grand moving across this portion of the balcony. Every time we go there, we seem to get activity. Our light up balls go off. The REM pods, really great SD method, SD sessions. But also at the Chutes building, and all of these buildings that we're talking about there in Opelousas are all on the same block as the courthouse. They surround the courthouse. So I still go back to that area a lot because every single time we've gone, and not just the team, but when we take classes there and other people join the class and they see for themselves or they collect evidence also, it's just always seems to be very, very active.
Yeah,
Are these places still in business? Like the courthouse, is that still being used as a courthouse?
Yes, the courthouse is still
And
being
they let
used
you
as a
guys come
courthouse.
in and investigate?
Yeah, they do. There's certain areas that we can't go into, of course, where files and things are stored, but we are able to go into the courthouse and certain courtrooms, up in the jail area. The last time we weren't able to go in the jail area because they were in the middle of renovating, and so they had a lot of their files up there. But the Delta Grand is still operating. They do events there. The Chutes building, the upstairs in the Chutes building is not being used for anything currently, but downstairs there is a bookshop that is called the Black Pot Bookshop, and she has activity in that bookshop. We've gotten activity in the bookshop, and I believe at the end there's also the vape shop that rents there. So that whole building, the upstairs isn't being used, but most of the space downstairs in that building is being used.
So when you go into these places, how do the locals accept you guys? Like people who work in a courthouse, for instance, that are lawyers and this sort of thing, and they know like a bunch of ghost hunters are coming in there every weekend. What is their response to that?
I mean, the majority of them love that we come. The employees love having us come there and telling us, "Oh, guess what happened this week?" or "Guess what happened, a few weeks ago." The city parish president, which is in a lot of states known as things that are
Hey,
going on in
Mark,
the courthouse.
can you
Yes.
can you repeat that? You kind of we couldn't hear you.
Where do you want me to start off at?
As soon as you started talking, it
About the
muted.
parish president.
Okay, well, the city parish president, which is also known as a mayor in other areas, he likes for us to come into the courthouse. He likes for us to investigate there. The employees have all kinds of stories there. And they recently have been renovating the courthouse, and they've been having a lot of activity. So he called us in and said, "Hey, can you come in here and maybe talk to your friends and see if you can see what's going on?" So we did. We went in. We spoke to the spirits. We've been there so much that we feel like we kind of know them all. So we just basically said, "Hey, look, guys, they're making some changes. You may not like what's going on or understand what's going on, but no one wants you to leave. No one's trying to upset you. Just let them finish what they're doing, and then they'll all be out of here. Except for you, the people that work here." So I feel like I feel like most people really like when we come in, and I feel like they really enjoy telling us things that happened to them. Personal stories.
Like
What are
the
some of the things that happen? Go ahead, Mark.
like the St. Landry courthouse. One of the employees would come and unlock it for us and lock it back. Well, now he's on our team.
Oh,
That's how much they accept us. Yeah,
Yeah.
he wound up
well,
joining our team.
Yeah.
what are some of the things that people are experiencing there?
Well, gosh, we get amazing EVPs there. People have been touched. We've had a few people that were scratched. We've had
This is
tons
the
of.
employees during the day, or the employees during the day are getting scratched?
No, they're not getting scratched. That's just some of my team members and people that have attended the classes. The employees have witnessed lights going on and off, or they turn a light off and they know they turned it off, and they go back in and the light is turned on. The women that work there say that when they go up to the third floor, which was the jail area, that they always feel like their hair is being played with or touched or kind of pulled. And then when we do investigations there, a lot of the females that come in have some of those same experiences. Lots of knocks, lots of bangs, just, a lot of the same stuff we get when we go in and investigate.
Yeah. Hearing someone talking while in a room, like going down a hallway talking, employees tell us about that. And they'll look in the hallway and there's no one there.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you know of some of the historical cases that happened there? Are there any historical major cases that happen?
Well, supposedly there was some type of robbery. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, you might remember better than I do, about the two brothers, I think it was.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think there were two brothers that were involved in a robbery, and they arrested them, and they neither one of them would tell on the other, and so I think they hung both of them, is my understanding. Um, I do know that they tried just all kinds of every kind of case, around Opelousas and St. Landry Parish there. The only other big event that wasn't a case would be the fact that it burned down, and they had to rebuild it. I do know that it was used as the capital for a brief period in Louisiana during the Civil War. Um, so there's just a lot of history dating back to the mid 1800s in that one area.
Gotcha. So talk about some of the spirits that you've met there. It sounds like there's a handful of them that you've gotten to know over the years of investigating there.
Well, we try to use the names of the two brothers that were supposedly hung. We've gotten a few different names that we try to use when we go in and visit with them. But lots of times it's gotten to be where we may have gone in the first few times and really had to kind of get them to interact with us, to the point now when we walk in and while we're setting up, we're already hearing what sounds like footsteps down the hallway, or a door's being shut or knocked on. So we just kind of address them as either by the names that we've been given or the names that we've heard, or just, hey guys, here we are, we're coming back to visit with you. If you want to do something, do it. Knock on something, bang on something. We've caught a scream, a very loud female scream inside the courthouse, and it wasn't just one group that heard it. Different groups that were in different areas of the courthouse heard it. Mark, can you think of anything else we've gotten there?
Well, that scream was one of the best ones because it was on all three floors, and the courthouse is cement each floor, so you can't hear what's on the second floor if you're on the first floor, and you can't hear what's on the third floor if you're on the first floor. And we all had recording devices on each floor, and we went back to listen. You can hear it on each floor, that scream. Other things, people getting touched, like she said. A lot of ladies' hair get touched. Even people that comes to our classes, they've experienced their hair being touched while going up on the third floor. What else have we had? We've had in the courtroom.
I do know.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the courtroom, I can remember one of the first times we were there. You can see a shadow under the door, the back door where the office is at, and we go run and look, and there's nobody in there. But you can see a shadow move on the floor. I mean, from under the door, the crack under the door, you can see a shadow.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, but as far as like going in routinely and doing your investigations, you haven't come across like the same spirit and gotten to know that particular spirit.
Yeah, I've been in there, a couple of us, especially on the third floor. There was a jail also on the third floor. And when we go in there to do an SD session, they'll say our name. They'll say, oh, look, Mark is here. Like, Mark. And then I'll go to the back and we'll communicate to the SD sessions. Even Simi, they'll say her name. They'll say our names, like, to communicate with them.
Yeah, and something interesting, too, is, Simi is not a common name. And so when we're running just the spirit box, not even doing like the SD session, just the spirit box is running, we'll ask, can you say one of our names, or can you say the name of somebody that's sitting here? And very often we'll get Simi. And again, that's just not a very common name. So that's always, to me, really interesting. And I will say, we did have another really strange event there one time. We had a class going on, or one of our events there, And so we had groups everywhere. So we had a group that was on the 3rd floor, one on the 2nd floor, and one on the 1st floor, and one in the basement area. And I know in my group, we all heard what sounded like muffled talking, like several people talking, but it was kind of muffled. So at first I thought, well, it's got to be one of the other groups. So when we all came back together for our break, I said, guys, listen, when you're doing your groups, make sure you're in one of the rooms. Like if you're in the basement, let's not be in the hall, maybe be in one of the rooms in the hallway. Or if you're on the 2nd floor, be in the courtroom, not in the hallway. And when we all sat down and started to kind of go over our notes of that time period, everybody heard what sounded like a muffled conversation, but they all heard it close to their group, but on each floor. So in the basement and in the 2nd floor, the 3rd floor, and up in the jail. So it was really kind of an interesting situation because everybody was where they were supposed to be, yet everybody felt like it was right near them, like a conversation.
Like an
So
omnipresence.
Yeah, so that was
Kind of
really
like
yeah. It was strange.
So what are your theories behind these hauntings around this town?
I just kind of feel like there's spirits everywhere. I really do. I feel like if they want to interact with us, they're going to interact with us, and if they don't, they're just not, they're just not going to interact with us. And I make sure to tell people that, hey guys, we've been to the courthouse 20 times, and all 20 times we've always gotten activity there. I will say that is probably one of the most active places I've ever investigated in 20 years. But I always remind everybody, guys, look, just because we get activity doesn't mean that they're going to all join in every single time we go. We've gotten lucky that they have, and they've interacted not just with our team, but people that come in and other paranormal teams that have come and joined us because they wanted to investigate there as well. They've had activity. But I'm kind of leaning more toward I think there's just spirits everywhere. I really do.
Mark, you have a particular theory?
I'm the same way. I think there's spirits everywhere, and it's just they either want to communicate or they don't. I don't see it as hauntings, like someone's trying to scare you or anything. It's just like Marci said something the other day about if a spirit is like 200 years old and it's just sitting there, one day it's going to want to talk to you. One day it's going to want to say something because it's by itself for 200 years. You might be able to get some kind of activity out of them.
Yeah, well, and there's residual, which we all know in the paranormal field, and what we teach is just energy kind of going through the same motion. And then there's the intelligent types of spirits that are actually going to interact with you, and they're going to be the ones to hopefully respond on command and touch things and let us know, and then say our names through whatever devices we may be using. But the way I try to put it to clients and in our classes is, and of course I'm only speaking from what I think. Who knows what goes on, right? That's why we all do this. But I think about if you were a non-living person, let's say the courthouse, and you've been there for 100 years, right? How lonely, and of course this is coming from a living person's thought process, how lonely it would be to be in this location for this many years if you have a concept of time, and maybe reaching out to try to get somebody's attention, banging on things, slamming doors, flipping the lights on and off, just touching people's hair when they walk by or whatever. And people don't acknowledge that. Either they say, oh, what was that in my hair? Or, I thought I turned that light on, but maybe I didn't. So I feel like they may try to reach out, intelligent, and try to let us know they're there. But if we're just chalking it up to our forgetfulness or that really wasn't whatever, that must feel kind of like lonely, that no one acknowledges them. So when we go in, I try to make a point for my team to let them know that we're coming to visit with you. We are actually here. We are acknowledging your existence. And if there's anything you want to tell us or anything you want to do to communicate with us, please do, because we're giving you the time now to let us know that you're here.
Is there any time of the year that the activity seems more intense, such as maybe it's the anniversary of when those two young men were hung, or maybe it's the anniversary of when the courthouse burned down? Is there anything that's simultaneous like that?
Not that I'm aware of there. According to the employees there and according to the city parish president and people that have worked there for many years, it seems to be pretty often. I know that when we go in and investigate, it's pretty often. So I don't have anything to compare that to as to say on these 5 investigations around the time of it burning down compared to 5 that weren't around that time. I don't have that data. But I can tell you that just about every single time we go in, there's activity.
Got it.
Yeah. I think it depends on the location also, and if the spirit wants to interact. Because like we had a client a couple of weeks ago. She was saying, "Oh, our house is active. It's active. We caught something outside rolling like a black mass," and she was saying it was real active. We go there, nothing. I mean, it was boring. We couldn't get any kind of activity or anything in that house, and she swear her house is haunted, but we didn't get any activity at all.
And I think too, you have to kind of chalk that up to they're there all the time. So if there is a spirit there that's, let's say, intelligent, they may interact with the resident more because they're familiar with them. They see them all the time. We can go in and try to collect as much data as we can and analyze it and give them what we can. But that doesn't mean that they're going to interact with us first time there. So we always offer follow-ups because if they continue to have activity and we continue to go in and maybe help them, maybe the spirits would start to recognize us or know that we've been there a few times, and maybe they will interact with us. But the main thing that I always tell our clients is, do you feel like you can coexist with them? Nothing bad is happening. You just know they're there. And if you can have an agreement with them, um, you know, why not try to just coexist with them and everybody's fine? So again, I think it really does have a lot to do with the more you go places, the more you're going to get. And that's just based on my personal belief of from going into places so many times, and now when we go back and it's our 15th or 20th or 25th time going into a location, it's happening the minute we walk in the door. I just kind of feel like, hey, maybe they know we're back and they're excited and they're ready to interact or something.
That's a really interesting approach, because so often that investigators go in and they want the activity right now. They threaten the spirits, and then they're gung-ho on vanishing the spirits, instead of coming up with an ultimatum kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's a really good approach.
I tell you what, the one thing that we absolutely do not do, and not just on the teams, but also in our classes, the one thing that I don't tolerate and we do not do is provoking of any kind. And the reason we do not provoke or agitate, I don't care if we're sitting there for 5 hours and nothing happens, we are not going to provoke and agitate, because the way I explain it to our class participants that join us is, would you want to invite somebody to your house and you have these people come in and the first thing they do is start agitating you? Well, you're not going to want them in your house, right? So we have to remember that these spirits inhabit these places because either they like it there or they're trapped there or whatever the reason may be. we're not going to go in and agitate them in their location. That is the last thing we're going to do. So that's why we try to approach it in the manner of, in calling it visiting, and that's what we say. Hey, listen, we're back to visit with you. And so I don't allow that. And I don't think that that's something that anybody should do.
Have you guys come in contact with any negative spirits that you have to deal with for clients?
I mean, we've had a few things, nothing that I would say was anything really bad or scary. A lot of people want to call it demons when they call us in, well, somebody got scratched, so there's a demon in our house. And another thing that I try to make the clients understand is, if somebody's been trying to get your attention for a while and you're not giving them any attention, they're going to move up to the next thing, which may be a scratch or a little push or a nudge. I don't count that as anything negative or dark or evil. And you got to also think that not all living people are great people either. So if you're not a very nice person in your living form and you pass away, your energy may be very dark and negative. And so you may get some dark and negative interactions, but that doesn't mean it's a demon or anything like that. So we do try to explain that to our clients that we've had that have said, oh, I got pushed, or I was scratched. We try to explain to them that may not be anything to look at as something bad. Let's figure it out and see what's going on before we call it something evil or something bad. They just might be trying to get your attention.
But we did have a client recently, a couple of months ago. She had activity in her home, and when her husband passed away, the activity got a little more common. I mean, it revved up for her, and we had to go in there and figure out what was going on. And sad to say, but she wound up moving out of the house because she couldn't live with it anymore. Yeah, we did have
Did the activity?
Her house was also on a bayou. Her house set about 10 feet from a bayou.
Yep. Right next to the bayou.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it leads me to my next questions, because I know that Louisiana is very special, a very special place. And the reason being is because you have the voodoo culture there, and then you have the Christian culture there, and there's all these different religious atmospheres there. Like, how do you guys navigate, first of all, the Bible Belt, who are very keen on the first thing, you even say the word ghost, and you automatically say that's demonic. How do you guys navigate these kind of waters? And then you have the voodoo side. Like, I've come in contact with real voodoo practitioners when I was in Louisiana. I lived there for about 8 months, and it was right after Katrina. And there was a man who was actually drawing sigils on the side of the wall. This is in a neighborhood that was evacuated for Katrina. And what he was trying to do was get those spirits that he was housing there, because, they house spirits. He wanted to get them to follow him to the new location. So he was out there drawing the sigils and doing his thing. It's not evil. That's just what he does. That's a religion. So I don't want to knock, any religion or anything like that. But when you come across like the paranormal investigating, and you have clients coming to you, and they may have lived in a building that was occupied previously by somebody that practiced voodoo, that sort of thing. How do you guys navigate all of this?
Well, we are in a Bible Belt, and then there are a lot of very religious people, a lot of Catholics here. And like you said, there's other religions, a lot of other religions here. And we go in mainly to say, look, we're just collecting data. We're just collecting information. We just, you've called us in, or somebody's called us in, and we're just coming in to see that, if we can collect the same data as the claims or what's going on. And I do try to reassure them that the majority of our team members are religious people. They're either Catholics or of some other faith. And and then I just kind of go back to that same thing that, not, spirits just aren't evil things like we've been taught or from watching movies or anything like that. And I just try to make them understand that, you know, I'm not going to force anybody to let us come in and investigate if their faith is that strong. And we do have a lot of people that have reached out to us and have said, I can't get a priest to come and bless my house. They don't think that it needs blessing or for whatever reason. And we will go in and try to work with them on that too. So it's very, I guess to answer your question, it's kind of difficult and you have to approach it a certain way. And we've been very lucky that the way that we've sat down and talked to people and approached it, we've been lucky that we've been able to get into a lot of places.
Does it kind of change though the way you help a client? For instance, if somebody came to you and wanted their home cleansed and they were a voodoo practitioner, does that change the way you approach that investigation or that cleansing, I should say?
Well, we've not come across any kind of voodoo or practitioner. I mean, the majority of the people we come in contact with are Christians. They're, Catholic faith or Christians. And we do talk to them about cleansing, and we explain to them how, we can come in, we can have somebody come in and sage for you. We can have somebody come in and bless it for you. If you need us to contact your priest because maybe you've already contacted them and, they're not coming out, we'll be more than happy to do that as well. We haven't really come across any other religions, I guess, that we've had to, talk to about that kind of situation, about cleansing or anything. So I can't really answer that because we haven't come across that yet. But we do find, we just come in and do the investigation. We come in, we get the data, we present it to the client. At that point is usually where we'll say, we don't think there's anything negative here. We really think you can coexist. You've been doing it for the last 10, 15, 20 years. However, if you don't feel comfortable with it, we can find somebody that will come in and cleanse your house for you or bless your house. And so those are the majority of our cases.
Got it. And then do you guys ever come across any other types of spirits, like elementals or anything like that?
No, we've never come across any of those. Not yet.
No. Do you guys ever investigate the bayous without, like just out in the swamps?
I mean, we've investigated a lot of places that are right on the bayou, literally on the bayou. We've never been in the swamp to investigate. There's a lot of alligators around here, so I don't think I want to go out at nighttime in the bayou.
And mosquitoes.
And mosquitoes that will they'll carry you away. They're so huge. So we haven't actually gone, in the bayou to investigate, but we've investigated a lot of places that are right on the Bayou Teche, or just different bayous and tributaries that run all over South Louisiana. But no, we've never been in the actual bayou. But I did want to touch on something that's interesting. A lot of people naturally always look toward New Orleans as being, the hot spot for activity. And I'm not taking anything away from New Orleans. There is a lot of activity there. It's very, very old. It's right on the Mississippi River. But I think when people focus so much on a lot of those areas, they don't know that there's so much more in other areas of Louisiana. The Bayou Teche runs all through here, near, like Mark was saying, Franklin, Centerville, New Iberia, and it was a major waterway, hundreds of years ago. So there's a lot that has not even been discovered, and a lot of these places that we've just stumbled upon have turned out to be, I feel like, just as active as some places that, everybody talks about. I'll be the first one to put the St. Landry Courthouse up against pretty much any place in New Orleans or the Myrtles or any other place. I mean, that place is active. And I think people just forget about that because they focus on the big areas and the popular areas,
Well, I think it's become, with Paranormal Field, I think it's become more of what they've seen on television sort of thing, unfortunately. And so a lot of people will kind of flock. Like you see all these really big paranormal conventions, and they're always located at, again, one of the TV locations. So, it's starting to change a lot, though. I think people are starting to realize that you don't have to go to Gettysburg to experience a paranormal haunting. It's in your own backyard a lot of times. It's in your own little town. Ghosts are everywhere. They're not these big locations.
And our Cajun Country Paracon, this will be our second year coming up. We just finished our first year, and that's kind of our thought process when we decided to do this. Is we want to have this at places that we know are active because we've investigated them, but we also want to keep it in Cajun country, and we want to hold on to that culture and have that be part of our event, have the Cajun food be part of our event, because the Cajun culture is just an amazing culture, food, music, people. And so this year we had it at the Simon Theater, which is an old theater in New Iberia, and the museum, which is next door, and right there on the Teche, so this next year coming up in April, it's going to be at Vermilionville, which is a historic village that has original Cajun homes from the 17 and 1800s and early 1900s there. And again, keeping it on the water, keeping it, with the Cajun culture. There'll be people there in each house that you can stop and talk to them about the Cajun culture, and they'll tell you all about how the houses were made and just items that they made, in the 17 and 1800s. So that's kind of our thought process when we decided to put this together. Is we don't need to have it at a big location that everybody knows about and everybody hears about, because like you said, it's on TV or it's been in documentaries or whatever. Let's bring it to places that we know have activity. Let's bring it to places that are part of the Cajun culture. And, it was very successful last year. And, we know it's going to be successful this year too, this coming year.
I'll go into that in just a minute, but I wanted to ask you, how do the Cajuns believe? Do the Cajuns perceive the paranormal any different than the rest of the country? And the reason I ask this is because I've been all over the world now investigating paranormal stuff, and like the Romanians perceive the paranormal very different than what America does. The Native Americans perceive the paranormal very different than what the rest of us do. Right. So I wanted to throw a question out there.
I don't know, Mark. What do you think?
I don't know. I guess they embrace it. I guess. I mean, I would say they embrace it, because everyone I've talked to, they don't see it as like a haunting thing, like something to be scared of. So I don't know.
And I think that has a lot to do with a lot of the folklore that we have here as well. The Fifolet, the Rougarou. I think like Mark said, I think they do embrace it. It's part of the culture. And so when you talk about spirits inhabiting places that maybe was a Civil War battleground or was involved in some type of historic event that took place for the Cajuns or in this area. I agree with Mark. I think they embrace it. I think they want to know more about it.
Yeah, because I can remember when I was small, at my house, like something would happen. I mean, that was years ago. Like a knock or something would fall over, and my mom would say, "Oh, that's Set." And Set was a guy who lived there before us that died. So I think they used to phrase stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
It just became a normal thing.
Yeah,
Right.
you know, oh, that's Set. He's doing that. That's someone,
Yeah.
you know, that was small back then. I mean, and we just accepted it, you know?
And I think that's too, you know, I think a lot of it has to do with the swamps, like you were saying, the swamps and the bayous, you know, they've just held mystery for hundreds of years, right? And people grow up on the bayou. People grow up in the swamp area. They'll tell you stories of things they've seen and heard. So, you know, I think lots of times throwing out that, hey, there's spirits in this place, I don't think it really bothers them, you know, even with their religion, you know, and yes, we do have to talk about the religious aspect because, you know, the Catholics are, it's a huge group here in South Louisiana. But I think because a lot of these same Catholics also grew up, like we were saying, on the bayous, on the swamps. They've heard the stories. I mean, Mark just said, you know, his mom said that Set or whoever at the house, you know, they just, it's kind of almost commonplace, you know, for them.
It's interesting. I just feel like people don't realize how tough of a culture the Cajuns really are. And the reason I say that, and the reason why I wanted you guys to be on the program, and I write so much about the culture, is because it's just fascinating. A couple of years ago, I spent a little over a weekend with some real gator hunters out in the middle of the bayou. They invited us out. We stayed, and this place was literally on the swamps. I mean, it was like a little hunter's shack, pretty much, that branched out. It was on stilts right over the water. This place was so far out there that, like, we walked out. I remember going out onto the porch, and it was like it had the cage on it on the front porch because they stop the gators from coming in onto the porch. And there was a gator right there, right outside the door, about yes, it was so big. And I remember the lady, she had the house, you know, a little ways off of, you had to go across this little bridge through the water to get to her house. And she's lived there. The property's been in her family for generations. So we're talking at least 100 years that she's owned this property, and she hunted this land. They built the road that goes into this land. I mean, you think about what it was. She said her husband had to fill in a lot of it because it was all swamp. But that's what they do. They're year-round trappers, is what they call them. And so you think about how difficult and how hard their life was and how strong these people really are. I think they really don't get that kind of credit that it deserves. And I remember they took us out on a boat out to the international waterway. And if you've ever been out there, it's huge, right? You've got these big cargo ships going by and all this stuff. And there was another boat with 3 young kids, all of them 10 and under, out there by themselves fishing for the day. They were capturing whatever it was they were going to eat that night or something. I don't know. They were young. How many people do you know lets their kids even outside by themselves in the city, anywhere? And these kids were out in a little boat. I forget what those little boats are called. Out on the international waterway with big giant cargo ships driving by and stuff. It's just, the culture is unbelievable, incredibly strong people, and it's really to be commended. You know, I think society just doesn't realize that about the Cajun culture. So,
right. And a lot of those kids do grow up right there on the bayou. I mean, I have friends now that live right on the bayous, and their kids jump in that water and swim. You know, knowing that there's snakes and alligators and everything else in there. You know, and they fish right there off the bank, and whatever they catch, like you said, they cook or they hunt right there, basically in their backyards, and that's just the way that they grow up, and that's, you know, that's what they know, you know.
But yeah, I look forward to being part of your Paracon coming up. Who are some of the speakers, and what can we expect at this Paracon?
Mark?
Marci, I don't have it with me on speakers. I have to pull it out. You know it off
All
the
right.
top of your head, Marci?
Yeah, so we've got Dave Schrader coming. Again, he came this last year, and he was awesome. We have Sarah Lamos coming again. Searchers, Shane Pittman and Josh Purvis will be coming. And then we also have a lot of other paranormal groups that will be attending. We have several authors that will be attending. You will be attending. We're excited. And so we have Sidekick Paranormal. They're going to be coming as well. So we've got some exciting things. You know, again, this is our second year, and we're still learning and we're still growing. But we will have some workshops. We will have a workshop this year. The Ghost Hunting Housewives will be putting that workshop on, and we do have several speakers. We've got Matt and Mike from Southern Heat, and they're going to come in and do a speaking session too. So, like I said, we've got several things going on, and we're super excited about it.
And we have a ghost hunt that night in those buildings.
Yeah, at the Village.
Awesome. What's the ghost hunt at the Village?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm very excited to be part of it, and thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of it.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have it there at the Village. It's all in one area. You know, we think it's going to be a great location. There's a gift shop full of everything you need and want for Cajun cookbooks. You know, everything. There's the houses with the tour guides in each of the house that will give you a tour of the house and answer any questions you may have about the houses and the culture. And then that evening, we are going to be able to, for VIP and for our guests, we're going to investigate, I believe, 5 of the houses. So we're super excited about it.
And where can people go and purchase tickets, and where can they find you guys?
Well, we're on Facebook. Our main Facebook page is Louisiana Spirits. And then we also have Cajun Country Paracon on Facebook. If they go to our Cajun Country Paracon Facebook page, that's where we post pretty much all of our stuff about the Paracon. If they want VIP tickets, they have to email me at mlee@laspirits.com. And if they want general admission tickets, it is on eventbrite.com. But we also have a TikTok account, which is Louisiana Spirits, and then our main website is www.laspirits.com.
You guys, thank you so much for coming on the show and for sharing your thoughts and part of your life.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're excited to share the Cajun culture and all the spirits we've got down here.
On October 5th, I will be at the Rock Island Roadhouse Paracon located at the old haunted YMCA building to talk about my book, Dancing with Demons, and my personal paranormal life story. I will be around all weekend. The lineup of speakers includes some of the true paranormal investigators, such as Josh Purvis, Michelle LeBaron, and Rick Hayes. Come out and see me at this event. Tickets can be purchased from the link on my website at clthomas.org. You've been listening to The Gateway, your portal to the unexplained, the mystical, and otherworldly, broadcast live from United Public Radio, 107 FM, New Orleans. Until next time.